The way Black women are represented in media reflects their both past and present experience in society, politics, and culture. For more than 20 centuries, the media often ignored our misrepresentation, Black women limiting their stereotypes and mirrored the racial bias at the time. However, over the years, the portrayal of Black women often shifted, following larger cultural movements and growing activism around race and gender. For early perspective based on stereotypes today, more complex and diverse portrays, the representation of Black women in film, television, music, literature, and social media has changed a lot. Where there's been progress, stereotypes still exist, and the fight for gender representation continues to shape the media in 2024. Media has always been a powerful space, but for Black women, gaining visibility and control has been harder. For years, their voices have been pushed aside, with many portrayals limited to harmful stereotypes and roles created from others. From early days of Hollywood today, Black women have had to fight for fair representation that truly reflects their humanity. The media often rejects opportunity from Black women, reinforcing stereotypes and leaving little room for full diversity and complexity of their experience to be shown. Throughout history, Black women really had the chance to be seen outside the narrow stereotypical roles. In early years of Hollywood, they were often portrayed as mammy figures, domestic workers, or hypersexualized characters. These limited portrayals shaped how society viewed Black women, reducing them to one-dimensional characters instead of allowing them to be seen as complex human beings. Even now, Black women still face limitations, as media often expect type of Black women showcase, usually one that fits their white mainstream ideas rather than celebrating diversity. Colorism will also remain a clear issue. Lighter skinned women are often given more opportunity and visibility, while darker skinned women continue to face challenges. The based on skin tone serve a reminder of multiple layers and complexity of Black women must navigate in the world where the skin tone often determines their chances. Figures like Beyonce or Viola Davis have intense challenges when being Black women in the public eye. Despite their talent and success, they have been a target of relentless criticism and unfair expectations, with people eagerly waiting for their downfall. The pressure to be perfect while being judged harshly is a heavy burden that many Black women face. Still, they continue to break down barriers, challenge the advocate narrative, and assert their own voices. It's not only happening in media but in film as well. From early years in Hollywood, Black women have often fought roles that reflect their true selves. While there has been real progress, the fight for authentic representation in film continues. In the past, Black women in cinema often limited to stereotypical roles, but now in the new generation of filmmaker, actress, and producer, challenging the outdated ideas, creating new narrative, and breaking space for diverse and rich portrayal of Black womanhood on the big screen. In the early 20th century, Black women were often invisible and relegated to roles that reinforced racial gender stereotypes. Films like Birth of a Nation 1915 had tropes like Mammy and Jezebel, which often seen as Black women as either loyal servants or hypersexual figures. While trailblazers like Josephine Baker and Lena Horne, these stereotypes are still limited their opportunities and often forced into roles that empathize their sexual appeal. It wasn't until 1950 that Black women began to make their mark on television. Shows like Bula from 1950 to 1953 featuring Black women leading roles, but even then the characters were often portrayed as servant maids. While Etha Walters became the first African American woman to star in TV shows in 1950, these early roles largely reinforced the nation that Black women exist to be service to white families to provide comic relief. As the civil rights movement gained in momentum in 1960, so the demand of complex, empowered portrayal of Black women. The 1970s brought the rise of Black film cultures, which, despite their flaws, allowed Black women to be seen as strong, assertive characters. Foxy Brown and Cooper Jones, portrayed by Pam Grant and Tamara Thompson, were tough, independent women who challenged the traditional gender and racial roles. In 1980, we saw a significant shift in emerge of professional women being Black in TV shows. Thanks to the success of The Cosby Show in 1984 and 1992, which features Claire Huxtable, an educated, successful Black lawyer for the first time, Black women were represented as a fully realized individual who agency rather than stereotypes. Shows like 227, 1985 through 1990, and Good Times, 1994 through 1979, all began to expect women in middle-class, family-oriented contexts, reflecting on the broader societal shifts at the time. With the growth of Black feminism in 1980, with advocated for recognition of intersexual and race and gender, Black women in media began to push for more complex and news portrayals. Actors like Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, and Ruby Dee carved the space for Hollywood, taking on roles that dealt with Black experience in ways that are more realistic and empowering. The 1990s were referred as the golden age in Black television. Shows like Living Single, 1993 through 1998, offer complexity portrayals of Black women as friends, professionals, individuals navigating their careers, families, and romantic lives. Angela Baskerville and What Love Gotta Do with It in 1993 as Tina Turner showcased a range of Black women experiences, while Whoopi Goldberg also performed in The Ghost in 1990 showed the powerful of women in film. In the 2000s, the visibility of Black women in film continued to grow, but they often still faced challenges like typecasting. Roles for Black women were still somewhat limited, with being confined in certain roles, such as being the comedy relief character or being centered with racial struggles, not being just a character. However, shows like Scandal 2012 through 2018 with Kerry Washington and Being Married Jane 2013 through 2019 with Gabrielle Union gave us more a news complex portrayal of Black women with ambitious and multi-dimensional characters. Fast forward to 2024, the landscape is dramatically different. Today, Black women are not only visible in roles in both television and film, but they're also shaping the stories being told. Viola Davis, who made history as the first Black woman to win the Triple Crown of acting, Emmy, Tony, and Oscar, continue to break barriers in Hollywood. Plus, Lupita, who performs in films like Black Panther 2018 2019, has solidified her as one of the most powerful actors in her generation. Zendaya, another rising actor, has been a symbol of success, starring projects like Euphoria and Spider-Man, showcasing the world that Black women can be emotionally faced in their roles. However, it hasn't been without struggle. The casting of Hailey Bailey as Ariel in The Little Mermaid and Rachel Zegler as Snow White sparked significant backlash, exposing the deep racism that still exists. These incidents highlight the ongoing resistance of Black women entered into roles held by white actresses, revealing the tension remained between progress and racism. Despite the challenges, the opportunity of Black women in film have been greater. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu have been vital space for diverse voices, and new shows like Abbott Elementary, created and started by Quincy Barson, are Issa Rae Insecure, with another milestone portrayal of Black women, capture news of relationship, careers, and self-identity. While progress has been made from the 1950s to now, demonstrate a more inclusive and empowerment future. The intersectional of race, gender, and class is more present than ever, with film beginning to reflect the complexities of Black women's lives. More Black women are working behind the camera as writers, directors, and producers, ensuring that stories are told as authentic but also empowering. With the complex roles and broader representation of Black womanhood, the greatest access to creative opportunities and future Black women in film is looking promising. Music has always been a powerful form of expression, a space where Black women have shaped culture, taught stories, and created lasting legacies. Like in other media, the journey has been riddled with challenges and reflects larger society struggles. From the 1950s to now, Black women in music have faced a lot of issues with racism, sexism, and colorism, and often have to fight to be heard and recognized. In the 1950s, we had artists like Etta James, Maudie Waters, and Bessie Smith. Their contributions were overshadowed by the dominant white narrative in the mainstream music industry. While the title was undeniable, Black women in music were often frankly limited to performance in genres like jazz, blues, and gospel, with little room to break through in the commercial or mainstream music services. These early musicians faced racial barriers that restricted their ability to be on tour or under the same conditions as their white counterparts. Despite the obstacles, many became cultural icons, created a sound that would shape the music going forward. In 1960 and 1970s, brought a new wave of Black women in music. We have figures like Aretha Franklin, Nina Simone, and Diana Ross become a household names. Aretha Franklin, often called the Queen of Soul, not only broke by with her powerful voice, but also became a symbol of Black empowerment and social change during the Civil Rights Movement. Nina Simone used her music to speak about the racial injustice and integrating process with art. However, even with the game thing, this woman still had the subject of racial and gender barriers at that time. Aretha Franklin, for instance, struggled with the recognize of her full talent as a composer and a musician. Nina Simone faced significant personal and professional challenges as well, from being overlooked by mainstream institutions and dealing with the constant misrepresentation. The 1980s and 1990s saw the new generation of Black women reshaping the music landscape with art like Whitney Houston, Janet Jackson, Toni Braxton, and Mary J. Blige, gaining mainstream success. These artists were able to break into ways that their predecessors couldn't, blending into R&B, pop, hip-hop, and new sounds. Whitney Houston, with her powerful voice and cross-genre appeal, became a global icon, while Janet Jackson refined pop and R&B with her groundbreaking albums like Control and Rise Nation. However, even with the success, these women face pressure of being marked in ways that turn mainstream ideals and beauties and behaviors. Whitney Houston's image, for example, was frequently modeled to appeal for white audiences, focusing her on navigating the intersection of race, class, and gender in the media industry. In the 2000s, we had breakthrough artists like Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, and Rihanna. They began dominating the charts, continuing the legacy of Black women in music. Beyonce is known for her powerhouse performances and artist control, breaking into new areas of creative ownership, such as her surprise album and culture statement like Lemonade. Beyonce became a symbol of Black female empowerment, yet she faced a lot of challenges with her success and her bold expression of Black identity. From critics of her gender and sexuality began to discuss the supposed downfall of the artist. Nicki Minaj, as a leading figure in hip hop, faced similar challenges, fighting against the angry Black woman stereotype and struggling to recognize as a serious artist in the male dominant industry. Now in 2024, Black women music are continuing to break barriers and challenges the status quo. Lizzo, SZA, her, and Janelle Monáe represent a new era of musical expression, while general boundaries are fluid and self-expression and empowerment. However, even the increased visibility of successful bar artists in the recent years, the industry still operates on deeply integrated basis. Colorism remains a significant issue with light-skinned women often enjoying more media attention and commercial success compared to darker skinned counterparts. Black women in music are still highly judged about their appearance. The Black women in particular are often forced to navigate the fine between embracing their true self and the industry standard of beauty and professionalism. For example, artists like Lizzo have been publicly attacked for her body size, yet she remains to advocate for body positivity and inclusivity. Using her platform to push against the beauty norms have a circle including larger women, especially Black women. More of the industry expectation of Black women constantly be entertaining can be create a double-edged sword. As seen a backlash against Beyonce's Black is King, there's still resistance of Black women in roles that don't align with the traditional or stereotypical narrative. The moments showcase of Black women in public art are constantly held to impossible standards, often criticized for the success, creativity, and accents outside the white mainstream ideals. Yet, despite these challenges, Black women continue to dominate the music industry, using their platform to advocate for change, challenge outdated narrative, and provide a space for future generations of artists to thrive. How Black women are in the music industry, they're not just defining the future, they're reclaiming ownership of their stories, ensuring that Black womanhood in music is complex, diverse, and unapologetic themselves. The future of Black women in music is bright. The legacy that continue to build speak for themselves. Their resilient talent and unwavering commitment to reshaping the music industry on their own terms. Passion for Black women in the 1950s had very few opportunities to break into mainstream. The fashion industry at the time was overwhelmingly white, and systemic racism kept Black women largely invisible in magazines, advertising, and runway shows. Mainstream media was determined by European beauty standards, and Black women were often left out of the conversation. The few Black women who did make their mark in fashion in the 1950s were often tokenized or exoticized, framed through a lens that reinforced stereotypes. Women like Authority Kit and Dona Luna began to push against some barriers, but their success was often framed as the only ones. Luna became the first Black supermodel appearing in Vogue in 1966, but during the 1950s, she was still fighting against an industry that was unwelcoming for Black models. Arthur Kitt, who was known for her acting and singing, faced similar challenges. Her beauty was famous as exotic and mysterious, which fed to racist stereotype and limited her opportunities. In 1980 marked the breakthrough of era for women in fashion, but the challenges were still deeply rooted. Normani Campbell, Amont, and Beverly Johnson became household names during that decade, pushing past racial and stereotypical barriers to become most of the iconic models of all time. However, the industry was still rooted in European ideas of beauty, and even though these women were extremely successful, they often faced complexity of tokenism, racism, and limited representation. Magazines like Ebony and Jet gave Black women a platform to see themselves reflected, offering more authentic description of Black beauty. Mainstream fashion publications like Vogue and Elle rarely included Black women in their pages, and when they did, it was often to exoticize or stereotypize them in a way. Black women were seen as tokens rather than a regular part of fashion landscape. For models like Normani Campbell and Armani during that time, their beauty was celebrated, but they're often framed as other or exotic. Despite their fame, the fashion industry was still radical to embrace them fully, and Black models had to navigate the world that was still unwhelmingly white. The 1980s are a critical moment for the fight representation, but they also highlighted the significant barriers of Black women face in the world of fashion. In the 1990s, we got to see more of a shift in fashion. It was more of the golden age for Black women to be on the mainstream. However, even with this, more Black models still face challenges. Many were stereotyped, tokenized, and marginalized in a way that their white counterparts were not. The fashion industry still struggled to fully embrace them and not treat them fairly like others. With the rise of digital platforms in the 2000s, Black women got to be more carved into the fashion industry. Social media platforms like Instagram and Twitter allow Black women to create their own narrative, build personal brands, and establish direct connection with their audience. This helped amplify voices that previously had been overlooked in traditional media, allowing Black women to take more control of how they were represented. Additionally, the rise of online platforms gave women the ability to challenge beauty standards and dominate more inclusive representation. Now in 2024, Black women are more visible than ever. They're on the cover of mainstream magazines like Vogue and Elle. They're allowing more Black women to wear their natural hair and have darker skin tones and unique body types are celebrated, as the fashion and beauty industry are forced to reconsider their narrow definition of beauty. But even now, we still have a lot of challenges, such as not giving a lot of platforms to darker skinned women who's on runways, and also not knowing how to control Black women's hair. Most people who on the runway, you can see them have shorter hair or even no hair at all because they don't know how to help and adapt with black women hair on the runway. There are also times when it comes to the body size. Most black women are more on the curvier side, while that is not really appreciated by the media and society as for now and limited times we see black people on the runway. Despite all the progress we made in film, music, and fashion, black women still face a lot of challenges. Whether it's colorism, being underpaid in entertainment, or bound to consist of news representation, the media, while more inclusive, still often reflects society biases, and the stereotypes that define black womanhood continues to rear their heads in different forms. The pressure of perfectionists, unrealistic beauty standards, and being held to high standards still has visibility on black women in the public eye. While much has changed from 1950s to now, the fight for full equality and connected representation of media, film, fashion, music is ongoing. Black women today are no longer fighting for a seat at the table. They are taking the lead, shaping the industry, and refining what it means to be a black woman in the world. The path along the journey continues. The resilience, talent, and creativity of black women is undeniable, and their influence on global culture will only grow stronger in the years to come. Thank you for watching.